just an accepted thing, and that would mean obviously lots of redesign work on a lot of businesses, the way that they're organized and so on. I think that would be a huge liberation for clinically vulnerable people. I just wondered what you thought. Is this an area where someone like you, Dr. Sally, with your connections and things, can push at the door there to try to create prototypes? Because that's my point. Sorry, I've gone on too long.
May I interject with a quick question?
So can we actually do the hand format?
What's the hand format?
If you look down to the lower, you see a heart, and put your hand up, and we're keeping track of order of speakers. So we just had somebody speaking to the guest. Yeah, thanks.
Beg your pardon.
Sure.
Should I come back on that question, Gemma? Am I answering the question?
Sorry, Sally, yes, please come back to Wise Guy's question.
I think you made a really important point here. It isn't, but what I'd also say, it is about the fact that there's huge numbers of really good examples out there. I think the Apricot Tree Cafe is a very well-known one. But, I went to my local dentist the other day for the first time in 3.5 years or whatever. They had a massive HEPA filter in the studio. They were worrying, they wore FFP3s, no bother, just because, and I asked them, and it was fine. They said, yeah, of course we will, it makes sense. So let's showcase, it's about all these little examples out there. The guy comes to, who does my garden, he put a card around, which had on it something about we're a COVID-friendly, business. He put that on his publicity. So let's kind of, these are the kinds of good examples, because there are actually a lot out there. I mean, I was involved with a theatre company promoting one of their productions around disability benefits. That's how I got involved. They had one performance that was designated for people who were wearing face masks. It's things like that. Could you have, I don't know, certain hours for a supermarket where everybody wore masks, or there's different things you could be doing, and a lot of things that people are doing. And how do we capture those? How do we get them out there? How do we showcase them? Should we have awards? Could we have an award system? Nominations? Could we be kind of sharing information about the COVID-friendly businesses that we've been to, the restaurants that have actually kind of taken this seriously? That's really important. I would say Scottish Government did have a system. It did have some funding to support businesses to get ventilation and HEPA filters. And it was really it was not taken up at all, or very slightly taken up. Those that took it up really got benefit from it, and the evaluation was very good. But until you've made the case that it's needed, somehow government offering it and not publicising it very well isn't necessarily going to have the results you want. But I do think, ultimately businesses are competitive. You're getting good publicity for doing the right thing, and your competitors are getting good publicity for doing the right thing. Well, maybe you're going to start thinking about doing the right thing as well. But you're not going to know that if these things aren't out there and showcased. So that's one of the things I think is really important.
Can I just sort of ask, what about the concept of getting government subsidy? Would governments ever subsidise a business to make it COVID safe?
Well, regrettably, I'm not in charge of government. I mean, it would be, as I said, they did have some funding available in Scotland, but it wasn't taken up. So there are things that governments have done, but they're not always going to be. It's about, you've got to get businesses to understand and accept that the business benefits for this before they're really going to bother to take that up. I think. But it's not impossible, but there's a bit of work to do, and there are other routes to kind of getting businesses on site, I think, too.
Thank you, Sally, and thank you, Wise Guy, for your question. I just want to draw attention to the time. It is getting late. We did say we'd close on the hour. We've got a number of people wanting to speak. So if you are invited to speak, please try to be conscious of your time and be concise if you can. And I think next in line is Helen. Hi, Helen.
Hi, Pete. Thanks. Hi, Sally. It's good to hear you. It's Helen from Long River Kids.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Hi. So I was just listening to you the whole time, and I just obviously you know that you would have our support 100%. As a sort of action point, I guess I'm wondering, should we try and organise a meeting with everyone in Scotland that we can manage to cajole into coming and get everyone together and sort of just start talking about this? Because I think, because like you said earlier, we are a small country, and I think that kind of gives us a bit of an opportunity because we all kind of know each other now, and I think we could really get things rolling and be a good set an example, I suppose, maybe for other countries if we could sort of organise ourselves and start something.
Definitely, and that is definitely something that was on my list to talk to people about. I've been having chats with different groups. I think I think you and I were going to have a chat, or we certainly could and should, to talk through about how we, what would be useful, how we could kind of work together. And I do think it is about bringing together organisations. The COVID Pledge group was actually talking about doing this as well. That's UK wide. I think there's a definite need for exactly what you're saying, Helen. It's about how we pool our resources, and our efforts, and strengthen, the things that we're all saying by saying the same things together.
Exactly.
It makes it louder, and it means we can coordinate better and make the most of our very limited resources, time and energy.
Yeah, 100%. I'm right beside you, ready to rock the boat. And I wish you were in charge of government. It would be a lot simpler.
I'm not so sure about that. I can see some downsides, but that's just being entirely, from my own personal view. On the other hand, there are a few things I'd do. I've got a little list.
Okay, well, maybe we should just have a vote whether we should put you in charge. Anyone give me thumbs up if we should put Sally in charge tonight. Thank you, Helen, for your contribution there. Got a couple of hands left to get through. Ziad, you wanted to come back.
I'll just say quickly, so I added a few tweets to make a mini thread. So one, I found the Supreme Court of Canada decision in June 2022, which recognized the Council of Canadians with Disabilities as a party in that judgment. And then in paragraph 101 of that Supreme Court of Canada decision, it favorably described the Council of Canadians with Disabilities as being recognized by international bodies. And I believe they and other parties cited international authorities in order to persuade the Supreme Court of Canada to recognize them as a party. And so I've linked to their page. So just an update. And I don't want to take time away from Jeffrey Johnston, who I see has his hand up as well, and is a journalist in Canada that does excellent work in this area. So I'm going to shut up and step aside for Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ziad. Jeffrey, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ziad. And thank you, Dr. Sally. So I have a quick question. So I write for the Kingston Whig Standard in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. And I recently wrote a feature article, which I posted below in the comments section, about improving air quality in schools and protecting students and education workers. And I interviewed a grassroots organization made up of education workers, doctors, engineers, parents, concerned citizens called Ontario School Safety. And they've got a lot of good suggestions and also a lot of important questions for the Ontario government, the Ford government, which has a parliamentary majority. The government refused to meet with this grassroots organization. I had a bunch of questions for the Ontario government. they kept playing tag with me and ultimately did not answer my questions. And I only finally heard back from them weeks after I made the request. And it was the day that the article was actually published, when the newspaper was already in the hands of the readers. So my question for you, Dr. Sally, is given that there are grassroots movements at the civil society level that really do want to improve air quality in schools and school buses. But we have a majority government that appears to be not only unresponsive to the media, but also these grassroots civil society groups. What do you recommend is the next step for concerned citizens and the news media when it comes to putting these issues on the public policy agenda? Thank you.
Right. Oh, nothing too small to end with there. Well, I think there are all kinds of tactics. Sometimes it's about looking to see what else they're doing, and anyway, and finding ways to kind of attach the thing you want to that other thing. So I sometimes find you get the most press coverage if you latch onto another story about something else, but you can find a new angle. So there's sometimes stuff like that. Partly though, and it's always, sometimes I think, given the sort of state governments are in, and how far removed they are, and how from democratic accountability actually. Sometimes it's just a matter of, well, let's just get on with it. Let's just do it. Let's just kind of let's do this grassroots up. Let's do this bottom up. And let's just kind of make the Corsi Rosenthal boxes, or let's just stick them in there, and eventually, and then showcase it, and then start showing how kids are getting their sick, and then you start building it. It's a slow burn, if you like. It's not going to have immediate overnight impact, but it's a kind of building. You build the momentum. That's what I've seen happening in the disability world. Things start. There was something that happened in 1981, I think, where a bunch of people in the care home decided they'd had enough, and it was all about independent living, and they spawned a movement. It took years, and it's still ongoing. But sometimes these small things can take root, and it's about how you just slowly build. So I think that's part of it. And it's also, the other thing I'd say though is that politicians actually, believe it or not, in my experience anyway, are human beings in a very particular role, but they also have a lot of lived experience of their own. So the politicians I've often found most receptive around disability are those, for example, who've got a disabled kid, or they've got their own experience, their family's experience to draw on, regardless of their political allegiances or alliances. And it can be the case that if you get some of them on side, because they actually do get it, again, it's these lived experience things counts for so much, then you can actually build some really useful allies, sometimes in some very unlikely places, and I have done so in the past. So I think that's it. And it's about, sometimes it's like thinking laterally, as I was saying. It's always like you kind of take a circuitous route. So you go via some other bit of legislation or some other policy area as a route into where you want to go, but sort of joining the dots all the time you go. So that's a bit of a, hopefully not too vague answer. It's probably the best I can do. And it is also about just keep going, keep on, find allies, find the most unlikely allies you can possibly think of. Find whose government is persuaded by, and get them on side. Target them as a route into government. So like the sideways step, if you like. So I don't know. That was just a few thoughts, as many as I can muster at this hour of the night. But anyway, I hope that answers your question as best I can. Anyway.
Thank you, Sally, and thank you, Jeffrey, for your question. We seem to be giving you all of the huge topics to try and solve tonight, Sally. But it is about time that we start to wind down the space. And Gemma, I just wondered if you got any final thought before we wrap up.
No, I just wanted to say thank you, Sally. I know we've run long, so appreciate all the insight, and experience you've shared, and thank you to everybody for their questions and joining us. And Devin Kovacast, he actually had to drop down, but that's definitely going to be a neat story. He's documenting his travels with long haulers, and yeah, that's about it. So definitely want to say thanks to everybody for your participation, and that's all I've got.
Thanks, Gemma. And you were giving shout outs to people in the room before, and I just want to shout out a couple of people that just want to show appreciation for Sass and Jim the Hermit, who run spaces very often for a very long time, and they help build community and give people somewhere to go and vent, somewhere to talk to others. And so I just wanted to give them a shout out as well.
Pete, you just made me look like a bad guy. I'm sorry to Sass and Jim. Sass is gonna sass me now.
No, not at all. I mean, there are others that we could mention, but Sally, I'd just like to say thank you ever so much for coming. I'm going to ask you if you can give us your final message. I know you've given us a ton of things already, but we had thought about a final thought, hadn't we, before? And I know you had something that was prepared. Would you like to give us that?
Well, I did. I probably said it already. I mean, I think mostly what I want to say, though, is thank you ever so much for this opportunity. I mean, I think this is the way forward. It's been brilliant kind of hearing from other people and hearing what other people are up to, in other countries and so on. And, talking about how we can start both kind of coming together locally, but also draw on what's going on internationally. It's how we kind of do those things. And this kind of technology makes that possible in a way that wasn't possible before. So, it is the thing, I suppose, about how we keep this going, how we build it, how we all can play a part. We haven't all got the wherewithal to do stuff every day. Sometimes, all of us, myself included, we just have days when we just can't be doing it. It's too much. And then other people pick it up and they do it. So this is a joint exercise. This is something that all of us can get involved in. And it isn't just down to me, and by a long shot, it isn't just down to any one of us. It's about our collective resources, our collective knowledge, our collective skills, contacts, expertise, all of those things. That's what's going to make a change, and it's about absolute persistence and not giving up, but recognizing sometimes we all need a bit of a break from it, and not beating ourselves up about that either, because that's absolutely fine. So that's really what I want to say. I really hope I can do something that within this inclusive new normal, that we can do something with it. I don't know if it's an idea as much as anything. And hopefully it'll be a means of enabling things to happen, a catalyst. But it will take a lot of effort, a lot of involvement. But I think actually it's quite exciting, because I see the possibilities, and that's what I want to hang on to. I want to hang on to what I know is possible. And what I know is possible is that the way it is now is not the way it has to be. And there are things we can do collectively to change it. So,
thank you very much, Sally. That's a very positive message to finish with, and we'll keep on keeping on. And I love the positivity that you've brought to the space and the knowledge and your insights. It's been a really great discussion. I'm really thankful that you've spent time with us today.
Real pleasure.
So that will be the end of the space for today. And thank you to all those who came. If you want to help us, get in touch with Sally. If you think that there's a way that you can help spread the word by sharing this space with other people, sharing the recording with friends and family, and let's keep on keeping on and keep making that noise. And hopefully we can make those differences that we all hope for. So I'm going to leave the space open for a couple of minutes just so people can look around the room to see if there's people they want to follow back. But that's going to be the space for tonight. Good night, everyone. Good night, Gemma. Good night, Sally.
Good night. Good night, everyone. Thanks so much for coming along.